going to ask Sophia Ahmed, but Sophia is a graduate from University of London. She works with the National Student Union. She was a parliamentary candidate in the last election for Luton North from Green Party. She is actively involved in various student campaigns for human rights and social justice. One of the things that really, one of the perception is that, okay, these, you know, like 50 years on or 60 years on, the communities have evolved and there is no need for national identity or certain groups' identity. There is a anthropological view that there is black or Asian or Muslims and whatever. So, and it could be true, I don't know. We'd like to hear a young active person who is involved in politics and who is aware. What is our perception? Is identity important or is it irrelevant? We just be reading about the book. Sophia.
The background for myself, because to be honest, I didn't really know I was even Kashmiri until I got to university. Like, I didn't know what is Kashmiri, what is this like thing. I just thought of myself as Asian, really, and that's. When I think of it now, it's just so shocking because I actually went and lived out in Meerpuр for 2 years during my teenage years. That even there, like, we went to a school where everything was taught in English, and it was all very much, we learned about the Pakistan history and stuff. It was all like very like nationalist about Pakistan. Like, even there, when I was studying there, I didn't really learn anything about Kashmir. And it was when I was at university, I got really involved in student campaigning with Palestine and stuff. And it was just, I don't know exactly what it was. I think it was, I watched a Channel 4 documentary, Kashmir's Torture Trail. And then my dad was like, we're Kashmiri, don't you know that? And I was like, what, really? Then I started looking into it, and I was like, wow, like, there's so much human rights abuses happening there. Like, why don't we campaign about, like, I felt really ashamed of myself. Like, why am I doing so much for other countries and I don't even know where I'm from myself? So then I was like, okay, I want to get involved in the Kashmir campaign. And I started looking around, I couldn't find anything. Even SOAS, the university right next to mine, it was like, it's all very involved in the affairs of South Asia and Africa, but they didn't have a Kashmir society. They weren't doing anything about Kashmir, and I just found, and that just kind of piqued my curiosity more, because I was like, why is everyone ignoring this issue? So I started getting more interested in it, and I was like, okay, well, even if there isn't anything, I'm really passionate about this and I want to do something. So I started the Kashmiri Students Campaign, and we started Kashmir societies at SOAS Uni, Beck, and there's one in Kingston, and then we linked up with other, there was a Kashmir society in Birmingham Uni and other unis as well, so we linked up with them. So we did a national touring event about sexual violence and conflict, and it was going around to these unis. So actually first, when I first started getting involved in Kashmir campaigning, it was more about what was happening on the Indian Valley and about human rights abuses. But during this tour, the socio-economic implications in the UK became really apparent to me, because we went to Birmingham University, where I thought we're going to get a great Kashmiri turnout here. Birmingham University, big Kashmiri community, but there's hardly any Kashmiris actually at Birmingham University. So like there's great Russell Group universities in Manchester and Birmingham, it's a big Kashmiri community, but Kashmiri kids aren't getting into those universities, even though there's such huge communities in those cities. So then I got even more confused, because I just assumed, because I grew up near London and there isn't a big Kashmiri community there, so I thought that's why there isn't many in London, because we don't have a big community here. So I thought when we do these events in other universities that there would be turning out. So then I started reading more about like the work, like the background of Kashmiris in the UK. Like, obviously we all came from labouring backgrounds, and maybe that's why they aren't getting into big universities and stuff. But so that kind of changed my understanding of what it is to be a Kashmiri and stuff. And then it kind of opened my eyes to the classism as well within South Asian communities, because when I was going to universities like Birmingham and stuff, there was a lot of international students from Pakistan and stuff, and they'll be like, oh, so you're from like Kashmir? And they're like, oh, so Pakistan. I'm like, no, Kashmir. They're like, oh, from India. And I was like, no, I'm from Kashmir. And they're like, oh, so you're a Meerpuri. And they'd say it in this way, like, Meerpuri. And I was like, what is the Meerpuri? Like, what? And I was like, well, yeah, like, I'm from a village that's near Meerpur. Maybe that's what we were talking about. But I kept hearing this word, Meerpuri, everywhere. So then I just like YouTubed it, and there's like this Meerpuri boys video. And I'm like, is this what they mean when they call me a Meerpuri? And I was like, okay, because they used to say like, oh, you don't act like a Mifri, you don't talk like a Mifri, and I was like, what is this? And then I saw that video, and I was like, is this what they mean? Like, is this what it's about then? So yeah, so that's only really become apparent to me in the last 2 years. So that's what, like, we've kind of shifted the focus of the campaign now for the next year. It's not really going to be so much about human rights abuses on the Indian side, but more about like lifting the aspirations of young people here in the UK. And as Dalit said, like, I work with the National Union of Students. So we were doing a training conference the last 3 days in Warwick University actually, and we had like welfare officers and student union presidents all came together to get training, and we did this session where we just told all the delegates to write in one circle like what's core to their identity, and then outer circles like the layers of their identity, but in the middle just what's really core to them. So whether it's like different oppressions they face, like for being LGBT or whatever. And this one girl there really hit it on the nail for me, like what like this event should be focused towards like tackling. Because we told everyone to describe it in a minute, and she was like, I don't know how to say it in a minute because I'm really confused and I'm thinking about it, because I'm a British, she was like, I'm from Kashmir, but I don't really identify so much with that. I feel more of a British Muslim. But now, she was like, because I grew up in a very white area. And she was like, but now, because of all the Islamophobia coming in the UK, I'm not sure if being British and Muslim work together either. And then she's like, and then I'm also working class. So, and she's like, so I feel really confused about my identity and who I am today. She was like, is that gonna? She was like, now I'm thinking about it, I should really be a welfare officer, should I? If I'm so confused about my own identity, how am I going to help students? And when I listened to it, I was like, of course, it just resonated completely with myself. And I was like, as I spoke to officers, I was like, it should really be shocking that you feel that way, but it isn't, because if you think about it, the majority of, like, the large amount of British Muslims are Kashmiri. Obviously, half of that is then, at least half of it is women, and most of us are working class. So I'm like, actually, you're not like that much of a minority within minority communities. Like, you shouldn't feel so isolated. Like, you shouldn't feel so confused about identity. There's loads of people in this country who have the same identity as you. But because of the labelling in society, you just feel like even more isolated than you actually should be. So that for me is like the main, like, I think we should be careful about just coming up with like grand solutions to this, because I think it's quite a deep issue and we need to like research it and go into it a lot further. But I think that's like the main issues that we are facing, and I think it's kind of inevitable that young Kashmiris are ashamed of their identity when the way that the Mifri label is used. I actually really dislike the Mifri label now, and I don't, like, when people say that to me now, I get into a whole debate every time. Before, I didn't really know what they meant, so I was just like, okay, kind of thing. But I think we do need to tackle that, and I think it's really important to get Kashmiri ethnicity recognised. And when you are, and I think that I don't want to like play into the government's identity of making it all about security, but I do think when people are so confused about their identity, then like literalism does become more appealing, because it just gives a sense of clarity and it's just easy to understand, and it gives a sense of comradeship as well. And I think what we can start doing to like tackle the shame that young people have in the community about being from Kashmir is to start promoting it more in education and schools. So in the, like, I don't want to get political, but in the Labour leadership hustings they had recently, there was one with the Jewish community, and Annie Burnham said he thought he would do national day of events about the birth of Israel and the role that Britain played in that. And it's like, why don't we do that about Kashmir? Why don't we have like national events across the country in schools where you learn about the communities that came to the UK? And it didn't even have to be just about Mifris in Kashmir, but also in the Bangladeshi community. They all mainly came from Sylhet. So why not do it about Mifri and Sylhet and teach that in schools, and like so children know where their like fellow school children came from and learn about each other in that way. So I think in general the education system doesn't talk enough about the subcontinent and stuff, but even when it does, it's never really about the communities that are in the UK from the subcontinent. So I think we should start changing that more. And I think also at university level, one thing I want to campaign for is to have a course somewhere in the UK that does teach about history of Kashmir properly, because even at SOAS they don't, and that's like really shocking, and they should, because that's where the communities in the UK come from. And rather than focusing on other countries that don't have much relevance to the UK, they should focus more on the communities that are here. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be focusing on the next year, is like organising an oratorial event and doing that. And I think actually what you're doing here in Rochdale is a lot more advanced than other places. Like even having this centre, like places like Luton, other communities with a large community population won't have that. And I think it's really encouraging that you're doing this research and going forward with this.